Welcome to Bearing the Load Together. We are going to talk about collaborative course design for impactful online learning. We're specifically going to dive into the process that we have been fine-tuning at Baylor. We've already been introduced, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip right on past this slide. So today we are going to look at what we've identified as the key elements of effective collaboration. We're going to take a look at the student-centered design principles that enhance the student experience as well as course accessibility, and the research-based strategies for online course design that we incorporate within our design. So to do this, I just want to give everyone a breakdown of our teams and our shared tasks. So Kristen and I are both members of the learning design team here at Baylor. We're a team that have instructional designers, or as we call them, learning experience designers. We have content specialists who work alongside us to bring the vision to life in Canvas. We have interactive experience designers to help bring the concepts to life through interactives, and instructional support specialists that help support our faculty in between course design iterations. Ryann and Leanne are both part of our online learning unit. And this unit has our EDD in Learning and Organizational Change program, as well as a MS in Learning Design and Technology. And so Kristen and I have worked alongside Ryann and Leanne on the design and redevelopment of those programs. So through our design and our reiteration process, we work to update course content, both synchronous components and asynchronous components, as well as striving to meet OSCAR quality standards and the WCAG guidelines to meet digital accessibility. So our redesign phases, prior to working with faculty members, we send out a faculty questionnaire and have a kickoff meeting, is what we call it, to kind of get a feel for what the faculty members are looking for in a course, what they're happy with, what they'd like to see changed. And we develop a course map for that whole semester, and we refine course objectives. Throughout the redesign process, this is what happens over the course of a semester. We work in a shared OneNote notebook to help us aid in our collaboration. And we typically meet weekly with the faculty members to make sure that we're on track and that we understand still what the vision is in each module. Throughout this entire process, our content specialists are building the courses. Our interactive learning experience designers are working on the interactives, and we also collaborate with a video team to update course videos. As we start to wrap up that process, we do a course walkthrough with the faculty member and make any updates at that time. And we're also doing course iterations. Like I mentioned, we have an instructional support team so that if something comes up in a semester, we are able to go back and make those changes as needed. And so the course stays up to date throughout the entire cycle of the course. After our design process, the course becomes student-facing, and we rely on faculty feedback, course evaluations from students to help guide us in those different course iterations. So that's our process as a whole, the big picture. And I'm going to pass it over to Ryann, and she's going to start talking about our shared foundation.
Y'all, good to be here with you all today. And we just are going to share 4 strategies. I'm going to kick us off with the first one to sort of describe our collaboration. And the first is the importance of having a shared foundation. So Lindsey and Kristen's team, and then Leanne and I on the faculty side have along with our other faculty members, have committed to adult learning principles and UDL connections, and ensuring that our course is high quality for students who most of the time are full-time working professionals. They have competing responsibilities. And so we know that it is important that the course material that we are putting in front of them is accessible, it is engaging, Students have multiple means of engaging with the content through representation and through action and expression. And we want to set every student up for success by ensuring that our content is inclusive and impactful for our students. So we want to share on the next screen a few examples of what that looks like in practice. And so what you'll see on this screen is a couple of screenshots from my course, which happens to be an instructional design course in our EDD program. And I just want to talk through a few things on these two pictures here. So you'll see here on the left-hand side, this is an example of an assignment in the course. And some of the things that we have implemented in the course are screen reader friendly versions. So I know the font there is small here on this screen, but there's a link to a reading, and then there's an additional link directly underneath that with screen reader friendly version for the students to click on. So they have options when they are accessing the readings in our course. You'll also see at the very bottom of that picture, there are drop-down options so that questions that are being presented to the students, they can view them one at a time. If you will look over at the right-hand side of the screen, this is just a video that is one of the resources that students work through in this particular module. And we wanted to highlight that for this video, we offer transcripts for students as well as guiding questions. So we've really worked through all of the content that we are presenting to students to ensure that we are addressing both adult learning principles and UDL connections to support students in staying highly engaged in the material throughout the course. And not just this course, but every course in both of our programs, as Lindsey mentioned. So I think I am turning it over to Kristen to share strategy number 2.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So all of this is great. You can have a shared foundation, you can have a shared goal, but you don't really get very far if you don't have a communication plan. It all kind of falls apart there. So we spend a lot of time really focusing on our intentional communications between both of our teams. And so part of that is our faculty do get course release time. So they do have, protected time to spend with us on these projects. Lindsey and I feel very passionately that part of our job, a big part of it, is being available and helpful in whatever that looks like. So that can look like weekly meetings, that can look like twice weekly meetings, it can look like once every 2-week meetings. It's whatever the project needs, it's what we make happen. As Lindsey mentioned, we use OneNote as kind of our design notebook. And in the next slide, if you'll pop over there, we can see a kind of side by side kind of what this looks like. So in OneNote, we typically have like one page in OneNote looks like one page in Canvas. So there's a really good one-to-one kind of direct comparison. And then when our CSs come in, content specialists come in, they help us build it out, bring all that content to life. So this is kind of the working document. The other thing we do, Ryan mentioned, we have course templates that for the course so that, everything is going to look uniform and look the same. We also have the same for program templates. So all of the courses within the same program are going to have a very similar look and feel. So students are also going to have familiarity with how we communicate with them. There's not going to be a surprise. The rhythm is always going to be the same. And so all of that is really helpful. And ultimately, we both just kind of come to the table with our own expertise in mind. Lindsey and I with learning design background, and Leanne and Ryan with also learning design background, but education backgrounds, and being respectful of one another's expertise and really, two minds being better than one. And when all is said and done, they aren't left on their own with this course. There's always post-development support, either with us or with our instructional support staff. So it's always a team endeavor. And with that, I will pass that off to Leanne for our third strategy.
Well, thanks, Kristen. So, as my colleagues have mentioned, really our main goal is to ensure that all of our courses are very inclusive of all of our learners. Our goal is to always have students take agency of their own learning. And so we here at Baylor, the team that you see today on screen, really take very seriously our role in collaboration to help design those types of programs for our students. So with that, of course, our strategy 3 is to create a learner-centered design. We ask ourselves constantly, not just once, not just twice, but ongoing throughout the process. What do we want our students to learn? What might get in their way? And then how can we remove those barriers that could get in the way for some of our learners? And as the slide says at the bottom, we commit to creating meaningful and accessible online learning, allowing us to push the envelope of not only what we build, but also what our students can achieve. And again, our main purpose here is to elevate our students' strengths and to reduce the barriers that some of them encounter while learning online. Next. And so, as I mentioned, designing for variability isn't extra. This is part of our process. It's essential. It's not something that we could do. It's something that we are called to do. And so we follow the CAST Universal Design for Learning framework, which, as you can see there, those 3 elements of engagement is basically the why of learning. The representation is the what, and then the action and expression is the how. And so by keeping in mind this CAST UDL framework, we're able to really design flexible learning environments that lower the cognitive load and eliminate barriers for all of our students. And with that, I turn it over to Lindsey for the strategy. I'm sorry, to Kristen again for strategy 4.
Yeah, you can't get rid of me. So to wrap us up, this is quite the lightning round. I know we all want to talk more about all of our particular areas because there's just so much to say. But ultimately, course design, I think anyone who's in the field realizes it's about iteration. Like you never get everything in your first pass or your second or your third. It's just not the reality that we live in. So our whole process really is built around this idea of constantly refining and iterating and having that ongoing communication. So we have a really robust course readiness plan that our instructional support staff really helps when the course is being taught. And then we're constantly asking for feedback, what went well? What do you think you want to tweak? Oh, this was a complete bust. Stuff in theory doesn't always work in practice. So having that flexibility and all of us being of that learning mindset, nothing is ever personal. We've all done our best. And so we'll try our best again and just see what happens. And a big part of that is also making sure that new faculty coming on board, we have thorough onboarding and training so that they are set up for success so that they can really focus on what we truly care about, which is learner success. So with all of that, it was a lot in a short amount of time. We really appreciate y'all giving us this space and this time. And I'm not sure if it's questions or if we pause.
Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you for taking the time to attend today. This presentation is going to be all about how student behavior can still surprise us. So to start, let's just take a second to think about some of the predictions we might make about students. The most common that I hear is that students will either perform well or they don't care about the class. There's no in between. They may be unfocused, wait until the last minute, or too interested with their phones to do well. You may have heard these and others or experienced these thoughts yourselves. But this can be an oversimplification, so let's talk about how students actually work by breaking down some assumptions and the realities. The first assumption is that intelligence is one monolithic thing that students either have or don't. But according to Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, there are at least 8, from logical, mathematical through musical and interpersonal. Everyone has varying levels of capability in each of these categories, which is how a supposedly smart student may do well in logic but struggle with reading and writing, or vice versa. But often what we describe as intelligence can really be broken down even more into topic knowledge, habits, discipline-specific thinking, the ways of approaching a topic according to established theory, and social conventions, the unwritten rules of a discipline or academics in general. One second, please. Sorry about that. Again, students are often strong in one of these aspects, but weaker in others. For example, take this radar chart of two fictional students, Erin and Rosa, both in an introductory chemistry class, and both facing unique challenges and strengths going into a new semester. Erin is strong in topic knowledge, study habits, and discipline-specific thinking, while lacking in some specific skills and the self-awareness to identify these weaknesses. He might do well on multiple choice tests or essays where he needs to recall and interpret knowledge, but may be surprised with his performance in hands-on applications such as labs or project-based assignments. He may also miss essential conventions of the discipline if he hasn't practiced using them in previous classes, such as lab safety procedures. Erin would benefit from opportunities to practice essential skills early in the course, such as access to a one-page study aid or a video reminder of lab safety protocols. Modeling key skills in lecture videos like this can help reinforce good habits in a variety of courses. For example, showing good documentation and troubleshooting strategies in a programming course. Rosa, on the other hand, is new to the discipline but has strong study habits, some relevant skills, particularly lab safety from a biology course she took in high school, and the self-awareness to know that she has a lot to learn. One way to support the Rosas in your courses is to provide ungraded optional practice activities, especially at the beginning of the semester during topic reviews. Creating small assessments that test either knowledge or skills, such as a short quiz paired with a lab, would allow Rosa to show her skills separated from the content, and as a bonus, they would likely help Erin too. Assumption 2 is that motivation is likewise binary. Either someone is a hard worker or they aren't. This again is an oversimplification. Students can be motivated in one situation and not another, and the appearance of motivation depends on their personal goals and how they engage with content. Let's take a look at two more fictional students, Nisha and Kyle, in an upper-level anthropology class. Nisha is passionate about her studies and is an engaged participant in class discussions, but she has always struggled with writing papers. For some reason, the ideas that flow so well when she's speaking seem to become clunky when she writes them down. She often becomes discouraged by her history with writing and doesn't put in much effort because she figures that it won't matter anyway. Writing is a key academic skill, and the goal isn't to reduce the rigor of these assignments. Rather, we can look for ways to balance the assessments so students can show their knowledge separately from the skill. Including other low-graded assessments with options to record a presentation and then translate it into a rough draft could help students like Nisha show their understanding while building key writing skills. It also allows instructors to focus on giving writing-related feedback instead of focusing on an apparent lack of content knowledge. Additional resources could also help, like providing example papers, a video demonstration of how the instructor would approach the assignment, or links to a writing center. Kyle, on the other hand, is a solid student and performs well on smaller projects, but isn't very engaged with this course because he doesn't see how it would be relevant to his future career plans. He also struggles with estimating how long it takes to complete long-term assignments and often submits papers at the last minute. Kyle's motivation could be supported with a discussion in the first module of how the course's topic ties into other aspects of anthropology and influences or follows important historical periods. He may also benefit from opportunities to research how the course's content applies. Sorry, my screen shifted a little bit. He may also benefit from opportunities to research how the course's content applies to a specific area of interest. For long-term planning, a variety of supports could be provided. If there are multiple reports in the course, the first could be broken up into parts that need to be submitted periodically, which would help model the process for future assignments and could be an opportunity for stage feedback. Assignments presented in this way can also help address common mistakes early so students can show progression in their knowledge and skills. If there is only one report in the course, or stage feedback isn't viable with the course structure, a suggested schedule could be provided showing how long each step in the process would take. For best results, pair this with other supports such as recommendations for brainstorming, research, notes organization, and writing tips. Assumption 3 is that all students and all people think, plan, and perform in the same ways. We often hear about one-size-fits-all study strategies, graphic organizers, or metaphors for explaining content that try to appeal to this one way of thinking, often one that is a convention for a specific discipline. But students conceptualize and perform in a variety of ways. One study method likely won't work for all students because they process information differently. For example, this slide shows two different mind maps created by two fictional students, Leah and Michael, taking a music history course. Leah creates an orderly map, but finds great interest in the subtopic of American folk music and decides to learn a lot about it, meaning that the rest of the map is relatively simplistic. She does very well on a relevant module, but fails a summative test that covers a broader view of world music. Michael's mind map may look disorganized, but really it represents connections that he can see between various subtopics and even with concepts from other disciplines. While small details might seem irrelevant to the music course, it allows him to broaden his knowledge to a wider view of all of his learning, past and present. This type of lateral thinking can be highly beneficial in multidisciplinary subjects, but isn't always recognized as such, and Michael might feel frustrated if he's unable to apply these connections in his projects. You can help the Leahs and Michaels in your courses by providing opportunities for students to pick their own topics for research papers and readings when appropriate. Leah can share her passions with Michael, who likewise can share his holistic view. Some students may also need support with study skills at a particular level. What looks like disorganization or laziness on the surface may really represent this missing skill. You may want to consider providing multiple options or strategies for study habits, graphic organizers, and memory aids, or have students develop their own. The final assumption is that social dynamics aren't a factor in student performance, but let's look at an example of how this might not be the case. There's a famous psychological study often referred to as the marshmallow test. Young children were left alone with a marshmallow and told that if they didn't eat it while the researcher was gone, they would get an extra one. For a long time, this was seen as a measure of personality. Children who had the ability to be patient would succeed in life, while children who ate the first marshmallow wouldn't. But then a deeper study found that the students who ate the first marshmallow didn't have a personality flaw. They simply had life experiences that made them not trust the promises of adults. They ate the marshmallow because they knew from experience that another treat might not be forthcoming. Student behavior is rarely in a vacuum. It's made up of their trust in the instructor, the social dynamics of the class, and past experiences. Let's look at two situations where students may not speak up for reasons other than not knowing the answers. First, there's Angela, who did not have a very good experience with her K-12 teachers. She often either saw or experienced teachers putting down students who didn't give exactly the right answers, and so learned that participating in class would only bring grief without providing any academic benefits. She engages with the course content in every other aspect, but is usually silent in class discussions unless called upon. Another student, Sheng, is an international student who is used to a classroom dynamic where disagreeing with the instructor is seen as disrespectful. He may do well in discussions with other students or answering questions in class, but may refrain from more open-ended discussions that require him to disagree with the instructor. Now, this won't apply to every culture or every student from a particular culture, but it's good to keep in the back of your mind that differences in cultural expectations may be a factor. You can support both the Angelas and the Shengs in your courses by incorporating an explanation of classroom dynamics right at the beginning. A large portion of this will be on the instructor, but designers can help by bringing this concept to their attention and encouraging them to think about desired outcomes for discussions. This can help them build ideas about the guidance they will provide around etiquette, providing constructive feedback, and appropriate debate strategies. An important aspect of this is that it is about building clear, constructive feedback opportunities. Rather than shying away from risk, we want to lay a foundation where risk-taking is a valuable experience regardless of whether students succeed or fail. Exploration, making mistakes, and getting feedback are not just side effects, they are a part of the process of learning. Simply telling students whether they're right or wrong doesn't tell them why they are wrong, which is essential for addressing the underlying misconception that caused the error in the first place. So this is just a quick dive, but if you'd like to learn more, I recommend starting with Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, and Transparency in Learning and Teaching, or TILT. to evidence-based frameworks for supporting the success of a wide variety of students. References and links are provided at the end of this presentation, and of course, the first presentation in this session also talked about it as well. For now, thank you for listening, and I can take any questions.